When I came back to PCC in 2011, I had no goals about what I was going to do with my education yet. I didn't graduate high school. I was moving in and out of my parents' house. Then I got married and I had a baby.
In 1990, I dropped out of college after having gone to CalArts, Otis Parsons, and the Art Center, at which point I became a makeup artist in New York and Paris. I worked in graphic design in LA as a .com creative director and art director. I went to culinary school, had a catering company, taught cooking, sold electrics, worked in property management, was a barista. I was obviously searching for something. And
I didn't finish school, and so the sixth grade education was pretty much where I was at. And so I left the house at 12. I had a run-in with the law at age 18, and I almost ended up in prison. In 2005, I started trying to find some things online to, get a GED or figure out how to, get a diploma, because I was trying to get a better job, and everywhere wanted to have an employee with either a high school education or a GED. And so,
For 7 years, as soon as I realized that I was going to have to pick a career eventually, I was trying to decide what I was going to do, and I was changing my mind a lot. It was difficult because I'm indecisive, and because I have too many choices to open for me, and because there's too much hanging on that decision.
So the image of Masha when she first came into the project might have been someone sort of standing at a crossroads where there were many, many, many different paths, and she was there by herself, and she wasn't sure where to go. And the image I have of Masha now is her walking clearly and strongly down one of those paths, but with lots of people with her.
I feel like education in school isn't just learning the things in the books. There's a lot of other educational aspects in class that I totally was missing.
And so, I think about how hard college is for so many people. And then add on top of that all of those other issues that Masha and so many of our students have gone through. And I think it's amazing that they're here at all. And
Jeannie did not have to do that. That wasn't part of the class, and that wasn't part of the program, and not even really part of her job. It was just something she did that was super special to me and that affected my entire life.
Masha often had a look of, that look is inviting to me. And so that look offered me a chance to call on her often, to have her point of view brought into the classroom, to speak to her after class, to engage her more. And that link there, I think, opened up, a relationship with her where perhaps she felt seen by it, which tends to happen, heard.
The mentoring that I got from Ricky and Jeannie gave me a reason to go to school outside of just getting my diploma. And Jeannie helped me figure out what I wanted to do with my career and where I want to go from here in that 15 to 20 minutes of time that she didn't have to spend with me.
I was missing a career that satisfied different aspects of my personality. Each one of the careers that I had tried would satisfy the creative, it would satisfy the food, it would satisfy the office worker in me. I mean, there's so many different parts that make me, and I would get bored with any one thing if it didn't encompass too many things.
So when I first met Jonathan and we first started to work together, he had many different interests that he was trying out. He'd had many jobs in the past that he excelled in. He has a lot of talents, has a lot of skills, and a lot of interests. So it can be really hard to focus on, well, where do I go next with all of this, with all these different pieces that I have?
In 2010, I came to PCC wanting to study Chinese medicine. It was challenging, it was hard. Ultimately, Chinese medicine wasn't the path that I wanted.
He can do anything. And with Jonathan, every time I saw him, it was feet to the fire. Jonathan, you have to make a choice. This choice isn't going to satisfy all of your needs, but you have to make a choice because no particular thing is going to do that.
I mean, so Sarah really kept me on track academically and talked me, as I said, down from many a ledge. And Sarah was able to laugh at me when I was being absolutely ridiculous. For the 1 hour that I contemplated welding, I mean, she found that hilarious, and she was not quiet about that.
It was really a process. Okay, here's what I'm thinking about now, and we'd chat about it. He'd share where he was coming from, what he was thinking. Sometimes it would entail taking a class and sort of spending some time with it to figure out, is this where I want to go?
I think the epiphany I had while talking with Rachel was that the business was what I was pursuing. She suggested to me when I was thinking about business that I look into the PCC Climb Center, where they have a small business development program. And through that, I found out about their Getting Your Recipe to Market program, which is for small food entrepreneurship. And it was something that could satisfy all these different aspects of what I needed in order to be successful.
I still have to remind him, do you have any sense of how far you've come in terms of what you've actually accomplished? He's had huge accomplishments. And so I know he knows it, but it's still good to remind him at times, hey, look what you've done.
I am now a small business owner. I developed during the 13-week program a caramel corn using organic butter and Oregon sea salt that is now starting to do well, which is mind-boggling that in 13 weeks I developed something that is now on market shelves. Rachel and Sarah both gave me tons of perspective that you can only give to somebody when you have seen them grow and you are watching them look for their path. They both, from different angles, have pointed out to me that I am a success.
My whole childhood growing up and throughout my teenage years and even into adulthood, I felt like I was intellectually unequal from other people because they had a different life than I had. I felt like they had something better, you know. I didn't know what that was. I just thought that it had to be better, you know. They got an education, and so I felt like I was lacking some kind of smarts. And so when I came to PCC, it was pretty much the same thing. The only thing I had was the desire to want more for myself, but that's it. Yeah.
I first met Sam about 2 years ago when he joined the Roots program. He struck me as a person who was very capable, but also unsure of his abilities.
I think that sometimes you really don't know what you're capable of. And so, you know, when I came in, I wasn't sure what I was capable of. I felt like I was intellectually inadequate. You know, completing school was like, you know, it was a thought, but I didn't know if it was really a reality.
I learned from Sam about his life and the dynamic life that he had, the very different educational background, very little educational background that he had over a long period of time.
She saw that I was working hard, trying to be a good dad, and you know, there was times where I didn't have daycare, and she sat outside and with my daughter so I could run inside and take a quiz. You know, I mean, like, what if I'd had to miss that quiz? You know, guess what? Then I missed 2 or 3 quizzes and I ended up getting a B or a C. And then, you know, over the course of 2 years, my grades aren't good enough to get into the radiography program. And then my dreams of hoping to give my kids something better, those start to fall apart, you know? So.
Sam has a history that I think caused him to frequently doubt his ability. Not doubt his goal, but doubt his ability to actually get there. I always felt that I could see his ability, and that's part of what I give him.
She helped me with what I thought I could achieve. So she helped me realize that I do have potential beyond just my prerequisites and just beyond the radiography program, and she's helped me gather my thoughts and kind of what I wanted to do and kind of where I want to go, and then help me streamline that. I mean, help me plan out my, you know, obviously an advisor, she helps me plan out all my stuff, and then if anything changes throughout the term, throughout those meetings, we make adjustments, you know, and it's like having somebody there constantly with their hand around you, you know, saying, hey, look, you know, is this still kind of what is this still looking like, is this house still looking like you envisioned it when we started building it? There's not words to describe that kind of support. You know what I mean? There's not.
I became the person who had faith in him and was able to simply say to him, Sam, this is what I see of who you are.
You know, any of these things that come up on a day-to-day basis for any student, you know, all of these concerns are real and valid, and the kind of emotion that can come from those can shut a student down to where they give up, you know, and so it's important to have people like that.
Well, I don't think that a mentor goes into a conversation thinking, I'm going to change this person's life right now. But I think that just the sounding board and having someone's opinion who you respect, even the 5, 10, 15 minutes can really change everything.
Having somebody take interest in your life and what you're doing as a student makes a huge impact. Without developing these relationships with Sarah and Rachel and more, I don't think that I would be where I am right now. They made such a huge difference in helping keep me on track and helping me to ultimately carve out what it is I want to be doing.
There's been so many times over the past 3 years that either the workload was just overwhelming, but I've had so much stuff on my plate. The past 3 years, without these people in my life, supporting me and helping me, like,
Mentoring is important, not just to students, but I think to anyone who comes from a background of a life where perhaps they weren't acknowledged in some ways for the good things that they can do, for their personal strengths and characteristics. Mentoring is that outside voice that helps them recognize what they have within.
Without the mentoring element in the educational process, education is really just the acquisition of knowledge. With that mentoring process, education can become a process during which you learn how to live your life and how to make a positive contribution to your community.
You know, when you're not used to higher education, it's so huge and confusing and overwhelming. And it's nice to have someone to just sit down with you and say, okay, let's just talk about it. Let's talk about what are you interested in? Where do you want to go?
I think I've learned to keep myself open, to try to listen, to be sensitive to what's happening in my classroom, to see how students are responding or not responding, and then put myself forward as people have put themselves forward for me. It's more one-on-one, it's more personal, right? And I think that students and me as a teacher get to further our understanding of what we're talking about, get to make different connections that can't possibly happen in the classroom because the constraints are gone.
I believe that the mentoring aspect of it is going to help the people that otherwise would not become instructed because they have other things going on in their lives that are too difficult and end up taking priority. So you're going to reach more students and you're going to become extremely meaningful in their lives if you can begin to know them as individuals.
You get to intervene. You get to support, you get to shape decisions and self-concepts that students make and have. It's very exciting. I mean, transformation is not too strong a word.
I value mentoring and I value being able to make those connections with students. And I've seen it make a huge difference. It's made a huge difference in my life when I've had that in my life. And so I would love to be able to pass that on to students that I work with as well.
I've talked with students sort of before their experience of mentoring and after their experience of mentoring, and many times it's an open door into realizing either more about themselves or more about resources at PCC or more about potential in the future. So if students don't get that connection, they may go to class, get a grade, but they won't have the richness that an education can bring to someone's life.
I believe that anyone can mentor, regardless of their position. Anyone can mentor, because the most valuable thing that I believe a mentor gives to an individual is the ability to see them, really see the whole person and say, I see who you are. Because a part of that, the next step is, then I see what you can do.
Being able to get that email back or get that phone call or text these days that says, hey, I'm doing this thing, thank you so much. They're doing this wonderful thing in their community and they're doing this wonderful thing in their life, and they think that you've been a part of helping make that come true for them.
Jeannie and Ricky definitely changed my life. They changed my future. They changed how I think. They changed everything about my life.
I would not be where I am today with Pinkletons without Rachel and Sarah's input by a long shot.
You know what I realized through this whole experience is that that by people doing that for me, I feel so compelled to do the same for others.